First of all, thank you to everyone who's joined us today. Whether you joined us through the links that we've been sending out to our various existing clients, or whether you're joining us through LinkedIn. My name's Liam. I'm a customer experience manager at Cubic Interactive. So we provide project costing and project management software to the AEC sector primarily. I'm joined today by Tim, Mark, and Stuart. So as part of our series of webinars with other companies that we work with, who we feel will bring a benefit to our clients, and we have a good working relationship with. We're bringing a webinar today to talk about Inevidesk. So Tim, Stuart, and Mark are all from Inevidesk. And they're going to be talking about the benefits of virtual desktops on Inevidesk today. If you've got any questions as we go through any of this, feel free to just drop them into the Q&A or the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer any questions towards the end. And if you want any more information once the webinar's over, our contact details and everything will be at the end as well. Tim, Mark, Stuart, I don't know if you guys want to just start by introducing yourselves, who you are, what you do, or what you have done, but just a bit about yourselves.
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. I'm Tim Whiteley. I'm one of the directors of Inevidesk. One of my other roles, and which I have been for the last 8 years or so, as a director of Workshop IT, who primarily provide technical support services to architects and people in the AEC sector. So we've got a long history really of working with architects day to day.
Excellent. Stuart, if you want to go next.
Yes, I'm Stuart Gateson, director at Inevidesk, and similar to Tim as well. Worked in the architecture industry for a long time in various roles, so IT operations and helping with various IT strategy as an internal role, and also in recent years, working externally as a consultant with companies in the AEC sector, and been working with Inevidesk since early 2021, but spent many years interacting with Mark and Tim on various projects.
Excellent. Mark?
Yeah, hi there, I'm Mark. Much like Tim and Stu, I've been working with architects for 20 odd years now, so yeah, we know the industry through and through. I'm the technical side of Inevidesk. I've developed the product and have been building, assembling servers, desktop PCs, computer hardware for as long as I care to remember. So that's where my skill set comes in to Inevidesk.
Excellent. So we're going to do this webinar as conversational as we can. So I'm going to ask the guys a few questions, and they're going to come back with the answers essentially. So my first question to you guys: what effect has the pandemic had that you've seen, particularly on the AEC sector, and how architects and engineers typically work?
Thanks, Liam. I'll take this one. Primarily, I think the pandemic's acted so far as a catalyst for change. I think it's prompted all of us really, and this is beyond the sector, I suppose, to think about how we live and how we work, and that's filtering through into change now in terms of operations, in terms of technology, in terms of how we see things going forward. I think change is still happening. I think it's an ongoing process. I think the process of change has started, but I think it's going to take a couple of years for it to really pan out and to see the kind of lasting impacts it has on the industry. I mean, some of the things that it's already. Sorry, that's my dog going in the background. So she's locked in another room. Obviously, we all became home workers overnight back in March last year. Seems a long time ago now, but that was a big impact on this industry, particularly for architects and the like, who are primarily office-based and have been for decades. That prompted a really big overnight change when we all had to immediately look at how we work, can we do that effectively? How we communicate, how we can still deliver to a high level. And I think, generally the industry's managed that really, really well, probably surprisingly so. And that in itself, I think, has then prompted some thinking about, the longer term strategies. And certainly most of the organizations we've spoken to, and we've been speaking to 50, 60 practices over the last few months, almost all of them, bar a couple, I would say, have adopted hybrid working as an ongoing strategy. So some form of home working is going to remain a part of their strategy beyond the pandemic. I think it's forced people to reconsider how they use offices. Does everyone have to be in the office all of the time? Do we have to set them up in this way? Do we need quite as much space? Can we reconfigure them to be more collaborative or interesting or welcoming environments? And we've seen quite a lot of people change their offices just in the last year. And again, I think that's something that we're really going to see over the next few years. Longer term effects, as I said, I think that's going to play out over the next few years as organisations and their employees kind of work out what works best between them, and that kind of balance of these kind of new freedoms that people have and that flexibility together with the needs of businesses and kind of driving that forward.
Okay. What have you guys seen as the short-term solutions that you're aware of that people have been making use of? Obviously, you mentioned everyone was plunged into having to work from home. So, what were the short-term solutions been that people have utilised?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Some of the ones there that have been presented on the screen, so remote desktop, VPN, these were just things that were kind of readily available that people could grab instantly with some very little investment, people taking workstations home. Some of these things still have a place in that remote working aspect, but they only cater for either one thing or one particular workflow. And that comes with security risks, people taking workstations home, possibly storing data locally, having to copy things back and forth across VPN. There's risks of obviously losing data there as well, and people using personal devices as well, because it's what was there and available. And obviously now there's starting to be shortages of laptops, etc., and what people can get hold of. So it's not the most efficient way, but it's what everyone had to do to be able to remain as productive as they could be. And that's where something obviously along with Inevidesk is a virtual desktop service that's been looking at for many years. That's something that can obviously be there alongside some of these things, but actually just improve on the way people are working remotely, and even when they're in the office and having that hybrid working, as Tim mentioned as well.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you guys see as the longer term strategy for hybrid working, allowing people to continue making the most of their infrastructure and their working environments?
A lot of the long term strategies are some of the short term ones as well. So looking at BIM 360, SharePoint, the one thing that is clear is that connecting into people's desktops that are sitting under their desks isn't really a long-term option, because it's a waste of space. It just isn't sensible, really, which is where VDI and Inevidesk comes in specifically. You can lift up your desktop resource and move it into a server rack or into the cloud. Then you're freeing up the space in your office to configure it however you want, essentially. Some people have also been looking at HP rack mounts, for instance. A lot of the traditional hardware companies, HP, Dell, etc., have come up with these rack mount desktops. And while they do that job of moving the desktop from under the desk, they don't necessarily have efficient ways to access them or provision them, or even be cost effective, essentially, because they're still expensive pieces of kit, and they're individual pieces of kit. We'll go into it further, obviously, but VDI and Inevidesk in particular allows you to have 7 desktops in one bit of kit. So you're really squeezing down the amount of space you take up by those desktops.
Yeah. So thinking about the existing solutions that we've been discussing, how is Inevidesk different, and what makes it better than some of the existing solutions?
It's much more performant than the solutions that have been around in terms of input response. So when you're using Inevidesk, it feels like you're sitting at your computer. There's no moving the mouse, and it takes 1 or 2 seconds for the mouse to catch up, or typing, it takes 1 or 2 seconds for it to catch up. It's all very fluid and feels like you're sitting at that desk. The main thing is cost. VMware, Horizon, Citrix, etc., Frame, they're all extremely expensive options, whether licensing or if you're running them in the cloud being an unknown factor, because most cloud providers charge per minute, per second, per gigabyte, per everything. So every little part is measured, and then you receive a bill at the end of the month. So it's really hard to know what that's going to cost you, and we don't do that. We have a flat fee, whether hosted or on premise, and that's it. You've got an expense which is exactly the same every month. You're not going to get any horrible surprises.
So next, how does it work and what does it cost?
Okay, the cost question is always the most the one people want to get to, so we'll jump into that. I mean, how does it work first? I mean, it's really quite simple. We have an application that we've developed that can be installed on a PC or Mac, and it can run on a really quite a lightweight device. Most of our clients are using quite lightweight laptops to access the service. Very simple application that you just sign into with your credentials, and it gives you immediate access to your virtual desktop once you've been assigned one by your administrator. There's a little bit of functionality there. You can change display modes, and that allows you to choose the best mode for the kind of work you're doing. So some software works better in different display modes, whether it's vector graphics or if you're working on, say, 3D modeling. So we've got that functionality built in, which was something that came out of the work we did with our steering group, something they wanted to see there, give them a bit more control over their performance and the graphics. It has automatic resolution matching for your displays and dual display support. So it absolutely supports how the majority of architects works. It has multi-factor authentication, so it's very secure. You don't have to worry about that. VDI, as Mark was talking about, allows you to centralize kind of all of your resources. So it really kind of helps in terms of security. We have a collaboration feature where you can share your desktop with other people in your organization, which is great for internal meetings and will give you much better screen sharing quality than using Teams or Zoom, for example, which we think is a pretty useful thing. And we've literally just released a pool feature whereby you can effectively release virtual desktops to your team as an accessible pool, so people can grab a virtual desktop maybe for a limited period because they want to work on maybe a specific limited type of software, things like that. Again, that's come through customers asking for these kind of feature requests. We've got an intuitive admin portal, which is very, very simple to create users, to create virtual desktops. You create the virtual desktops in most cases by creating a template. And once you've created that template, it's then a matter of maybe 2 minutes to create a new virtual desktop. So it's a really, really big win for IT managers and hugely more efficient than rolling out physical machines and the kind of time it takes to do that. Cost. We publish our specifications and our pricing on our website. So you can go to the website, to our pricing page, and you can see that. And I think we're probably the only VDI supplier who would kind of dare to do that, because VDI is incredibly expensive as a general rule. We developed Inevidesk primarily so we could offer this kind of cutting edge tech to the wider industry and to give you both high performance and affordability. So investing in Inevidesk, it doesn't really cost much more than buying a physical machine, but you get all of the benefits of virtual desktop infrastructure with that. So There's a couple of specifications on here. Our mid-spec standard is specified to support day-to-day Revit usage, and what most of our clients are using. They come in a pod of 7. So for 7 virtual desktops on our 3-year term, that costs £12,500. That works out at a little bit under £600 per year per desktop, which when you compare it to other VDI suppliers, they're charging £2,000 to £3,000 per year per virtual desktop. So it's a big difference. And frankly, it's what's getting us a lot of attention with people, is that when they see the cost, they want to talk about it, because then it becomes very interesting, because most people understand the benefits of VDI anyway. We also offer a 1-year term. We can host it, or it can be on premises. If we host it for you, effectively our cloud service, we have a flat fee of $1,680 per pod per year. Again, all of this stuff is on our website, so if people want to drill into this in more detail, they can look at it there. And of course, we're happy to chat to people and look at bespoke specifications and things like that, should they need.
Excellent. I'm right in thinking as well, obviously one of the benefits of you guys is that you are a lot more aware of the kind of applications that architects and engineers will be running. So you've specifically tuned your product to be able to cater for that better than just going and grabbing some Azure virtual desktop, for instance.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we work with architects daily. We've provided them with physical machines for decades. So we're highly attuned to both the hardware that's in use and what people need to do. And one of the differences really with Inevidesk compared to other VDI solutions is that you get dedicated resource. You'll get a dedicated graphics card per virtual desktop. You'll get dedicated RAM, dedicated storage. So you know what you're getting. You know it's going to be applicable for the work that you have to do, and you don't have to worry that the resources won't be available because there's too many people sharing those resources. That again is something that's really striking a chord in our clients and our potential clients.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys want to share some of the feedback that you've had from clients? I think we have a few shared clients between us. Just with the feedback that you've had from people who've moved over to Inevidesk from what they were previously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Just a quick list up here of our clients to date, which is great actually to have so many people adopting the services we only launched really a year ago, and this year's really been about trying to raise awareness of who we are and what we do. So we're really starting to get some traction now, and we're anticipating this client list growing quite considerably really over the next few months and years. You can see there's actually quite a range in terms of our clients. We have smallish studios of around 10, and then we have much larger commercial practices with 100 plus staff who have multiple offices, maybe multinational presence. So you can see in Inevidesk, by virtue of that, it actually supports kind of lots of different use cases and lots of different requirements. In terms of kind of how our clients have found it, we've got some case studies on our website, but I can tell you now, some have gone fully cloud hosted already. They've made the jump and they're fully hosted now, so no server, no on-site server infrastructure anymore, which they really like. Some have begun an incremental replacement of physical machines. So it's kind of a gradual process, and Inevidesk again has been designed to allow you to adopt it in an incremental way. So a pod at a time. You don't have to just junk all of your hardware that you've already invested in. You can do this. You can make the transition over years, or you can maintain a hybrid infrastructure. We're very flexible. We don't force anybody to go any other way. Some are using it to plug in satellite offices. We've got people using it from Berlin, from Dubai, from Poland and Toronto, and it works really well over long distance. And quite a few have reduced their office space significantly, whether they're leasing it out, whether they have moved to smaller offices, or whether they've cut office space or cut floors. And that's made huge financial impact, I think, on some of these. When you're talking about particularly central London office rent, it's huge amounts of money. We've got a few quotes which I won't read out, but They're taken from our case studies on our website, so please take a look at those in our articles section. This is Cullinan Studio, their practice leader, talking about how they use Inevidesk to effectively give them the flexibility to expand their co-working hub. They've got a lovely office by the canal in Islington, and they've opened that up, and it's become a multidisciplinary hub. So they have lots and lots of like-minded companies now working within that space. And because they even use Inevidesk, they can be much more flexible with where they're seated. They can take up less room. They can move around desks depending on who's in on any one day. So that's made a really big difference to those guys. Hutchinson Partners, the director in Berlin, Hutchinson's, he's looked into pretty much every VDI solution there is going over the last 6 or 7 years, I think. He's tried them all. He's a big advocate for the use of VDI, but it's always been too complex. Performance has not been good enough. Cost has been too much. However, they've adopted Inevidesk because we answer all of those questions for them, and that's working really well for their Berlin team to plug into London. And Hopkins are one of our earliest adopters, and they're potentially, I think they're about 80% now fully virtual. So that's a lot of users on our system. And again, it's the flexibility it's provided them for the future. They can do a lot more now. Their opportunities are greater.
Yeah. Excellent. If anyone's got any questions that they want to jump in with, they want to ask the guys while they're here, please feel free to open the Q&A or the chat box. And the contact details are on the screen now as well. Like I said, if you want to know any more about Inevidesk, or as I mentioned, Rapport 3 at the beginning, please just get in touch with us. We can answer any questions that you've got. Hope you found that really useful, and hopefully it will help you inform your decisions with your IT hardware infrastructure going forward. So thank you for joining us today, and thank you to the team at Inevidesk for walking us through what the product's all about, and hopefully we'll get to speak to some of you guys in the future as well. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers. Thank you.